And I am the founder here of the Women's Emotional Eating Community Support Group. I'm so excited to be here with you today. We're going to be talking about an amazing topic that is called sorry. I thought I was live, and then I thought I wasn't live. I'm live. We're going to be talking about an amazing topic today, and that's called 4 Ways to Make Self-Care Seem Simple. Now, I know that sometimes we can feel like self-care is like the worst and hardest thing in the entire world. But at the same time, I want you to be able to explore this from all angles. And coming from my own experiences, and for those of you who have not been following me for the last couple of weeks, you'll know that I was just sick recently. This is my first Teaching Tuesday back. And I experienced something that was very new to me and something that was actually very frightening. I had something called vestibular neuritis, and I got extremely dizzy. This went on for a few weeks. Now, the reason why I wanted to bring you this topic today is because even during this time where I was sick, I barely could see my phone in front of me, nothing. I mean, I was spinning. Even during this time, I still managed to take the very basic things of self-care. Now, I don't mean just getting up and showering. I mean actual self-care, like things that were allowing me to connect with myself on a deeper level. And this is where I want to bring you this topic today, and why, because I started to think about it and I was like, this was a very difficult time for me. There was a lot of fear. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know why I was dizzy. I had to have a brain MRI. I had to have a lot of things that allowed me to move through this process. But as soon as I was clear in that way, my mind was just focused on recovery from this. And the whole time, even the times that I was scared, even when I didn't know what was happening, I still was focused on staying calm and staying connected within myself. And that's what self-care is about. So sometimes we can have lots of things going on in our lives, like we can have a lot of stressful situations, we can have things going on at work, we can have things going on with our kids, we can have things going on with our boss, our spouse, our job, our parents, there can be all sorts of things going on. And it's at those times that we can tend to say, well, I just don't have time to take care of myself. And I want to call BS on that, because the self-care that I want to present to you today, that I want to help you focus on, is very different than the self-care that you might think you need to do. Like, sometimes people think that self-care is about making time to get a massage, or going to the gym, or just doing what you want to do. And I get that a lot, where people say, well, I just want to do what I want to do. And I'm like, well, what is that? And they're like, well, I don't really know. And so there's a lot of confusion behind, in my opinion, behind what self-care means. And sometimes we can have this illusion of what self-care means on a very commercial scale. Self-care means that we have to, take care of ourselves in a way that has us having to actually do something, like go to the gym, or cook this perfect meal, or I think that there's a lot of judgment around self-care. I was looking up stuff this morning on self-care, and it talked about make a new recipe, make time to clean out your closets, get stuff uncluttered. There was a lot of things that I looked up that I saw on the internet, which is really your resource. I mean, this is your resource, right? So this is what you're going to. So when you're thinking about what that means to the internet, when you're looking up for resources on how to take care of yourself better, you're going to find things that seem to be oh, great, I need to add another thing to my plate. So now I need to make time to clean my closet, or plant a garden was one of them. I mean, that's super cool, but that would stress me out trying to now learn how to plant a garden. I mean, this would be stressful for me. So when I talk about self-care, and that's why I wanted to bring this topic, and again, even when I was sick, I feel like self-care is connecting with yourself on whatever allowance, whatever level it is that you're at the time. And so that means that there aren't a tremendous amount of comparisons. That means that there's not a lot of judgment. That means that there's a huge amount of empathy and that there's a lot of compassion and caring. And I feel like sometimes these are the things that are missing from our self-care, because we think about self-care as being something that we have to do, and that's stressful because it's like another thing on your plate. And so I want to be able to kind of spin this in a different direction, and I want to for yourself on a deeper level without having it stress you out. So it's actually hopefully going to take stuff off your plate and not add it on your plate. Now, in Crush That Food Thing Self-Discovery System, which is where I coach my clients to tap into their invisible emotional relationship with food and to be able to really see on a deeper level where it is that they think they have a food problem. Like all my clients, everybody comes into my world and says like, I have a problem with food. And I have a problem with overeating. I have a problem with, not being able to know when to stop. I have a problem with cravings. I have, all of these like external problems, but they're not really the root cause of the problem. And in fact, if we don't fix the root cause of the problem, all that'll happen is if the root cause of the problem stays, then all that'll happen is all of those external things that seem like annoyances, they'll just continue to grow, because every time you do the thing that you say you don't want to do, but it's feeding the root cause of the problem, the root cause of the problem is happy. Do you remember like Feed Me Seymour, like from Little Shop of Horrors? Like that's kind of what the root cause of the problem is. It's a root. It's in there. And trust me, Seymour in Little Shop of Horrors didn't care that, or it wasn't Seymour, it was actually, oh, that's a trivia question. If anybody can put in the post what the name of the plant was in Little Shop of Horrors, I know what it is. We'll see if you guys know. But anyways, Seymour kept giving the plant more and more of his blood and more things, and like he was like dying. Seymour didn't, and the plant didn't care. So if any of you have not seen Little Shop of Horrors, you should definitely see it. It's a good one. But that's really what's happening here, is that there is a root cause of the problem that's causing you to feel like your surface level problems, the things that are, the eating too much, the cravings, the not getting enough sleep, the worry, the stuff that's on your mind all the time, like that stuff is food for the root cause of the problem. So if we never tap into the root cause of the problem, well, all those surface level problems, they'll just continue and you won't know how to change them. Now, because we're talking about self-care today, I want to be able to show you how you can change certain things on the surface, certain ideas, certain thoughts that are actually going to be able to help you to see maybe a little clearer what the root cause of the problem might be. And if you can get a clearer vision of what the root cause of the problem may be, then you can change the vibration of what it is that you are struggling with on the surface. So let's say, for example, during this time that I was sick, that there was a root cause of the problem. I didn't know what it was. But at the same time, like I recognized that if I allowed myself to sit in fear and I allowed myself to let fear like swallow me up, well, I wasn't going to do myself one darn of good. That was going to only exacerbate the problem. It was going to make it worse. It was going to make me feel anxious. It was going to make me feel sad. It was going to make me feel depressed. It was going to make me feel like I wasn't, ever going to heal. I wasn't ever going to get better. And if I couldn't envision that there would be a change in my own ability to be able to move through this and to learn something, to grow from it, well, then I would have stayed stuck for much, much longer than I was. And I wouldn't have been able to move through it, because trust me when I say it was so uncomfortable. And yet at the same time, because that self-care was the first thought in my mind, that was what drove me to be able to push through and to find a solution, to find an answer. Now, even today, I'm still struggling a little bit. I still have about 10% left of dizziness, and there's still a few things that are on the back burner that I might not be able to do. However, those things are not on my front burner. And that's why I want to talk to you about this and why it's so important today, that I make certain that you know that your self-care is all about your mindset. Your self-care is what you can envision. Where is it that you're blocking your own ability to trust and believe in yourself? And where are you blocking your own ability to be able to fix your problem from the roots, from the inside out? Now, again, like I told you, this is what I struggled with, and I'm still struggling a little bit. However, it's not on my front burner. My front burner has all of my healthy thoughts, all of my pieces of the puzzle that do connect. Like, I'm not thinking about the things that aren't connecting. I'm thinking about the things that are connected. So this is where I want to help you with a self-care made simple, like 4 ways that you can just make it simple. So the first thing I want you to think about is I want you to think about optimizing your environment. Write this down. Optimizing your environment. When you're struggling with something, when you're stressed out, when you can't figure out what it is that your problem is, I want you to be able to optimize what it is that you're listening to, what it is that you're spending time with, like who are you spending time with? Where are you getting your good feelings from? Are you stuck in negative thoughts? Are there places inside of yourself that, try and get away from this yucky feeling about yourself, but then you keep telling yourself over and over again that you can't do it? Like, where are you getting your thoughts from? And I know that you're watching me today, so I hope that this is helping to optimize your environment. But really pay attention to it. See what energy sucking activities you're doing in your life. Is there a person in your life? Now, this could be a family member, and that's okay. That is okay. We can't, when we're not able to change our situation, we're challenged to respond to it differently. So if somebody in your world is actually creating this enormous feeling inside of you, like you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you're not, valuable, there's something wrong with you. Trust me when I say that there is a flip side to that coin, because all of those thoughts are fear-based. And if you're going to optimize your environment, you are going to have to flip that coin and turn that fear into curiosity. And so when you start to turn that fear into curiosity, that will allow you to shift your mindset. Now, you can't change another person. You can't change a circumstance. Like I said, when I was stuck in this place where I was having this medical issue, like I could not change my circumstance. What I could do, though, was I could allow my mind to research information, to get curious about things. I mean, I was on like every, site trying to find pieces of the puzzle that were going to connect for me. Now, let me say this. Optimizing my environment meant that I had to set boundaries for myself, because when I first started looking up, again, for those of you who are just joining me, I have just come out of a struggle with something called vestibular neuritis, so it was a medical issue. So when I started to look up, and that's like paired with vertigo, so I was extremely dizzy. But when I started to look up different websites, different Facebook groups, different, internet things, whatever, you have to be able to optimize your environment for yourself. You have to be your own advocate. You cannot be on the wrong team, right? So if you're in a group, maybe even for emotional eating, trust me when I say I'm not going to mention any other groups. However, I have seen groups myself that are really depressing. Like really, everybody in the group is just, every post is like panic, alarm, alert. Oh my gosh, I binged, I this, I that. And it is sad, because there's an enormous amount of people in that group that are just getting drawn into this negative space. And it pains me because there's so many other options. And so for me, like when I started looking up vertigo, because obviously like that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get with the other people that were struggling with this. What I ended up doing was I ended up finding some groups. One of them, like the heading on the group was, this is a support group for women who are struggling with this horrible disease, and trust me when I say it is horrible. Like, I do not wish vertigo or vestibular neuritis that I had on anybody. It was horrible. It was. And yet at the same time, I saw that site where it's just like this, we're gonna support each other as we suffer through this debilitating disease. I was like, whoop, next. I'm not going to land on something like that. Absolutely not. And it's okay that it's not okay for me. And I want you to remember that. It's okay that it's not okay for me. Other people, that's okay. You want to sit in that pool and swarm around in this mucky muck? That's okay. That's okay. It's just that it's not helpful. If you're trying to have some self-care for yourself, it's not helpful if your environment is just like you feeling like you're clouded with all kinds of negative stuff. Now, this might also have to do with the news. This might also have to do with mindless scrolling. If there's stuff in your life that you're like scrolling, and if you find that every time you pass like a friend, and it could be a friend for 20 years, could be someone you knew from high school or kindergarten or Girl Scout coach, whoever, I don't care where they were from, if their posts start annoying you and you're judging, delete. I'm not kidding, delete. And you have the option to do that in your Facebook, by the way. You have the option to do a Facebook cleanse and to optimize your environment. This is self-care. So optimizing your environment for self-care in that way, shape, and form means that you just literally unfollow, you uncheck it, you get off the groups. You do not have to take in everything in your surrounding if it is not valuable for you. You do not have to, right? Just like we have an option to listen to music that we enjoy, right? If you're going to sit there and you love, I don't know, 60s music, and now your grandson walks in and he's playing rap music, and you're listening to this every day, that's not what's going to make you feel alive. That's going to make you feel dead. That's not going to make you feel good. Now, I'm not saying don't keep an open mind and not to explore your options, but at the same time, know what it is that you're feeding your mindset and know where it is that you're not optimizing your environment. So that is step one towards making self-care simple. Step two is to change your vibration. If something feels stale and old because it's a routine and a pattern, but you're doing it every day, and I'm not talking about work, I get it. You have to go to work and that's fine. But at the same time, if there's nothing in your day that's adding a value to your energy, like this could be where like, okay, maybe you do have a job that doesn't feel particularly purposeful. So now we have to make certain that during our day, in between the job that doesn't feel particularly purposeful, that you add value to your life. So maybe that's hopping on a podcast here, or maybe that's getting daily excerpts from I don't know, a lot of people are interested in daily quotes or things that are going to intrigue you to be able to fill up your cup, right? Because if your cup is empty, if you have nothing in your cup, well, then that's going to feel awful to you. So I don't mean filling up your cup with mindless things, though. That's the thing. So you have to be able to see what is it that's my patterns and habits are creating a space for myself that is energy sucking and what is energy enriching. So sometimes that will be on social media. Sometimes that will be talking to people or going into your favorite coffee shop. Like sometimes, because I work from home, so sometimes I feel like I'm just I'm here too much, because I'm a massage therapist as well as coaching here. So I have clients that come to my house for massage, and I also clearly do this work on the computer. Plus, I have my clients that I coach, so I'm home a lot. And sometimes I need to change my vibration. Like I need to get out of the house and go somewhere. So I'll go to a coffee shop. I'll sit there. I'll get a little decaf Americano, whatever. And I'll sit there for a few hours. It changes things. So if you are in your house, if you are, sometimes weather and you're stuck at home or whatever, just get up and move to a different room. Like get up, open your front door. Like just step outside for a moment. Look at a leaf. Put your bare feet in the ground. Like do something different. Change your vibration. That is self-care. So that is allowing you to be able to take something very simple. So if you're sitting in the same position, for a long time, if you like have a special chair in your house or whatever, get out of it. Get out of it. It doesn't have to be forever, but set a timer. Even if you're a TV watcher, and I know we don't have that many commercials anymore because there's a whole Netflix thing. Set a timer every 20, 30 minutes. Get up, change your vibration, change your mood. If there's things that are in your home life that are stressful, you can just change your wording, right? So I know that I was married, and I know that for quite some time I wasn't happy in my marriage, and this is personal information. But I know that sometimes my husband would do something, and like I would immediately like snap, like my mind would immediately be annoyed, and that's on me. So I did think about it, and I was like, wow, like why am I so negative? Like why do I always say like maybe he does something and I'm like immediate with the negative? That's not about him changing, that's about me changing. And so even though as a whole picture things ended up the way they ended up, I can still see my part. I can still see why I was stressed and why I was feeling uncomfortable and why I wasn't changing my own self. And so that's self-care number 2, is how to change your vibration. Change your thoughts, change your words, change your patterns, get up and move. Even in 5-second increments, it doesn't matter. It's still something. The third thing is look at those habits, look at those patterns, and see where it is that there are negative patterns that have been created through repetition. And then write yourself a note and say to yourself, I can change my patterns in the exact same way, or I can change my habits in the exact same way as the habits were created, through repetition. And then start to try on your new way that you would like to be on for size. Like let's say, for example, every day you come home from work and the very first thing you do is you grab a box of cookies and you head off to your room and you lie in bed and you sit there for an hour playing on your games, eating cookies, eating chips, whatever, like in bed. So that's a habit, and it was created through repetition. One day you did that and it felt good. Interestingly enough, when I had this vestibular neuritis, like there was 2 days that I could not move. The only places that I went was to the bathroom, because throwing up, I was so dizzy that I was just like constant back and forth, from the couch. So even during this time, where was my point that I was going with this? What I was saying is that in that time, like I was like nested into a couch, and I did a few self-care things, meaning I did not scroll around on Facebook. I didn't watch TV all day. Like I made certain that I didn't turn on the television because I didn't want to get like lost in some place. I wanted to stay focused on what was going on so that I could fix it. And I also made certain that I drank all my water. Those were my self-care things for those days. However, I will say, it was pretty darn comfortable on that couch. I don't sit very much. So it was very comfortable to be like nested in there in my blankets and my pillows and all that stuff. And I can see where that would allow me to get comfortably uncomfortable, meaning that would have been horrible for my life if I stayed in that state forever. And yet at the same time, there was a little safety there. It was kind of comfortable. It was like I didn't have to do much. I needed something. I asked, can you get this for me? It was just like I was allowed to just sit there. Now, granted, I was sick, and yet at the same time, I can see where there was a day before you started doing that repetition. And so I can see where that repetition may have occurred, if that's a problem for you. It doesn't matter. Whatever habit you're trying to break, there was a day before, and then there was the day that the habit started. And so there is time that goes through this. So habit is created through repetition. New habits, we don't have to break old habits, by the way. We just have to create new ones. So what happens is that we add in new habits so that we crowd out old habits. So let's say, for example, that's your habit. You come home from work, you walk in the door, you say hi to your dog or cat or kid or husband or whatever, you grab something, you're like, oh, finally, like I get to be by myself, all these, people that I've been dealing with all day. You grab your little snacky, off to the couch, off to the bed, off to the lounge chair, off to the whatever, and you're just like, I need this time for myself. Scroll, 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 eat, whatever, okay? Same thing at night, right? If this is your habit, because a lot of times people have nighttime snacking habits, they're snacking as they're watching television. So this habit was created through repetition. It will be broken through repetition. So for me, I know that my habit was to start eating at around 3 p.m. When I started, kids came home from school, I'd make them a snack, I'd have a snack, then I'd make dinner, I'd eat dinner while I was cooking, then I would eat dinner with them, then I was making their lunches, I would eat more. Like that was my progression, right? So it started at 3 p.m. and ended, in the night, 11. And I would just like snack the whole time because that was my pattern. So in order to break this pattern, I had to say to myself, okay, I can have this cookie, I can have whatever, I'm not going to eat it standing up. And the reason why I didn't want to eat it standing up was because that was my pattern, that was my habit. So how did I break that and get into a different repetition? Well, let me tell you something. Telling myself that I had to sit down and eat that cookie without being up and like this, changed the habit. So changing the habit helped me because it helped me to, well, number one, the difference between me allowing 7 cookies to shovel into my mouth versus me sitting down and having one and then having to get back up again, get another cookie if I wanted another one. Like if I was going to eat the 7 cookies standing versus eating the 7 cookies seated, it would have taken me like the difference of like an hour and a half, like the difference, because 7 cookies go in my mouth in a minute. Whereas 7 cookies, if I'm sitting down and eating the 1 cookie at a time, then getting back up to get another one, that takes a lot of time. And so what I did was I retrained myself to break the habit by creating a new one. I wasn't focused on breaking that habit. I just created a new habit. So habits are created through repetition. So if you never think about breaking your old habit, like I never said like, oh, I want to stop eating 7 cookies standing up. What I said was, I want to start eating my cookies while I'm sitting down. I just created a new habit and it changed everything. That wasn't the only thing that changed it. It was one of the things though. So the last thing is discipline equals freedom. And I used to not like this one because discipline seemed to me like what I had been doing my whole life. I had been on diets, I had been training, I was an athlete, I was a figure competitor, I did all these things. So discipline seemed like a hard word to me. But then I realized that it was in a different way. It was discipline equals freedom, and discipline really is just the equivalent of giving yourself a command and following through. And so because I had so many times that I wasn't following through on what I said I wanted to do, I could see where I would allow myself to say I wanted one thing and then do another. So I wasn't disciplined in believing in myself and trusting myself and building a good foundational relationship with myself, in loving myself and having empathy for myself and being kind and compassionate for myself. So my ability to be able to respond to myself with love and kindness was discipline. Like I needed to make certain that if I said I wanted something that I would follow through with it, because the other way, it wasn't kind. So discipline equals freedom is another kind way that you can have self-care for yourself. Lowering your expectations to be able to allow that discipline to be available for you, that's freedom. So making certain that your expectations are not set way too high for yourself, so that way you can have discipline within yourself. Like I said, I told myself, okay, Lisa, you can eat these cookies. I didn't say, no, you can't eat them, because that would have been really hard. So the discipline that I had was, okay, you can eat this, and you're going to sit down at the same time with no phone, no television, no computer, no social media, no nothing. You're going to eat this cookie. You can eat a cookie, no problem. You're just not eating it when you're standing up. Discipline equals freedom. Because once I was able to do that, and then I learned to build trust with myself, which was the problem to begin with. See, discipline equals freedom so that you can build trust with yourself, because the problem is you're not trusting yourself to begin with, because you're always saying, oh, I have to stop this, I have to stop this, I can't do that. But you're not giving yourself an actual command. You're just telling yourself to stop something, and then you're not able to listen to it, which it builds a distrusting relationship, right? If there was a child in front of you and you told them, you promised them something every day, eventually they'd stop believing you. And eventually they would expect you to, disappoint them. So that's kind of what you're doing with yourself. All right, so 4 simple steps to self-care. Just very, very briefly going back through them. Optimize your environment, know what you're doing, who you're spending time with, change your vibration, move your mind around, change something. Repetition, you can change your habits through repetition just as they were created. And discipline equals freedom. Allow yourself to give yourself a command and follow through. Don't set your expectations so high that you're not going to follow through. All right, I will see you guys on the next training. Thank you so much for watching. Bye now.